All right, welcome back to CM's Garage. Today I've got a cool project to show you that I built back in 2019. My son and I are big aviation enthusiasts. We go to air shows all the time. The B-17 is one of our favorite aircraft. Love World War II aviation and the history. Back in 2019, I built this B-17 replica panel. I never was able to really do a video of it, but I figured today would be appropriate. It's November 13th, 2022, and yesterday there was a tragic accident of a B-17 Texas Raiders down in Dallas, Texas. My heart goes out to those people. Prayers for their families and everyone that was involved. It's super sad. So I figured this would be a good time to show you my project. All right, so here we go. So in detail, I'm gonna go through this panel and show you all the instruments and controls. We'll start from the right side over here on your engine starter panel. So down here on the right, you have your fire extinguisher controls. So you had one bottle on each wing, and then you could go ahead and select what engine you wanted that fire suppression to go to. So that's your fire extinguisher panel. This is your engine starting panel. So you've got engine 1, 2, 3, and 4. The way this would work is if you wanted to start engine 1, you'd flip that switch down and you would go to mesh, and that would start the starting sequence, and the propeller would start turning, and as soon as you got ignition, you would let up on those and go to your next engine. So that's the engine starting panel. Let's move over here to your carburetor air filters. You've got the filter control here, on, off, and then you've got your light indications. If the filters were off, these lights would go on. If they were on, the red lights would turn on. And you can see here, filtered on for ground operations and flight up to 15,000 feet. Filters off above 15,000 feet. So once you're up in clear air, you can turn the filters off, and that helps the engine get a little bit more breathing air. This is just a light control. Fuel valve transfer directions. The actual controls are not on this panel though. Okay, so moving on, we've got our fuel control. Now this fuel panel is very similar to one that would have been on a B-17. However, the B-17 would have had 2 more tanks on it. So this one I found, I believe, is more from like a C-47, but it's the same exact style fuel control, the shape and everything. It's just the B-17 one is very difficult to find. I was able to find these are pretty common. Okay, so moving up right here, we have our outside air temperature in Celsius, pretty self-explanatory there. We'll go and move down. Some of my stickers are kind of coming off here. Service airplane with 100% octane, 100 octane fuel. Okay, so I'll quickly back out here. So the whole right side of this panel, and I will say, this panel is in the original B-17 out of the factory configuration. So some of the flying aircraft that you see today, the instrument panels look a little different because they're brought up to FAA standards for safer operation, where the flight instruments are moved over to the pilot's side. Most of the engine instruments are moved to the center, and that way the pilot and the co-pilot both have attitude indicators and the flight instruments. But as you see this panel, this is in the configuration. It would have come out of the factory in World War II. So over on the right side, you have all your engine instruments. So we'll start here. You've got your carb air, engine 1, 2, 3, and 4. Carburetor air temperature, very important. Don't want carb icing. As you move over here, you've got your cylinder temperatures. Air-cooled radials, you want to know how hot each cylinder is getting. So overall cylinder head temperature for 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll move up here. You've got your oil temperature, 1, 2, 3, 4. To the left of that, we've got our wing flap position indicator. And above there, I've got oil pressure, 1, 2. And this instrument, depending on the configuration, should have said 3, 4. I sourced out a lot of these gauges, so some of them aren't exactly quite accurate. This would have been an oil pressure. These are oil pressure gauges, but they're two different styles. So either it would say left, right for 1 and 2, or left, right, 3 and 4. But yeah, those needles would have been different. As we go up here, you've got your fuel pressure, left, right, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, there's another service. This airplane with 100% octane fuel. Okay, moving left, you've got your flap position indicator. That would tell you how far the flaps are down. And as we go up, I've got your engine RPM, 1, 2, 3, 4, and manifold pressure for your turbos. Left, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, as we look at the center of the panel, we have your attitude indicator. Can cage and uncage it. You have your compass. And your landing indicator, kind of an early ILS style approach indicator. You have your climb rate, your left and right indicator, airspeed indicator, and of course your altimeter. And below here, below the altitude, you have your altimeter. You've got your prop feathering buttons. So if you wanted to feather your prop, now feathering propellers, anyone in aviation would know. If you lose an engine, one is stalled, the propeller, you don't want it facing straight into the wind because it creates drag. So by feathering a propeller, turns the propeller perpendicular or parallel into the wind from a perpendicular position. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now moving on over to the left side of the instrument panel, you have your co-pilot's oxygen, the oxygen flow indicator, oxygen cylinder pressure, and a supply warning in case the oxygen starts to run out. And you've got your pilot's oxygen flow indicator, and the cylinder pressure, along with the supply warning. As we go up, we've got our vacuum indication, or suction indication, hydraulic pressure, vacuum warning light, oil pressure emergency system. If you open your bomb doors, that'll turn on. Bomb release indicator light. All right, let's move up here. From what I've been told of this instrument, your PDI, this would help the bombardier. Put down in the comments if I'm wrong on this one. But this would help the bombardier and the pilot. They could tune this to a radio frequency to aim towards a target. It's a type of like electronic radio compass. You have another compass over here. Set your heading and fly towards that direction. If we wanted to fly north, we point this north, and then the compass would move north. You've got a radio compass. You could tune to a radio frequency, and that would allow you the needle to point towards that direction. If you tuned to the radio frequency of a tower at a control field, then it would point towards that direction. So early style navigation that they would have used in the B-17. And this is your volt indicator for the electrical power. Over here we've got some nice panels or plates. They are made by a company, I believe the website is called myairplane.com. I'll put that down in the description. And then your warning plate over here saying the indicated diving speed with normal load and flaps up shall not exceed 305 miles per hour. And your fluorescent light controls. Oh, and one more thing over here is a compass card for the pilot. So that pretty much wraps it up for the instrument panel out here. I have one more thing to show you. I don't have this on here, but I also have the center instrument, engine instrument control panel that I'll show you. Okay, so this is the center engine control box that would mount onto the front of the panel. I'll post some pictures so you can see when I had it mounted on there. I have the panel hanging out in my garage, and if I have this mounted on the front, it would just kind of be in the way, and I don't want to see it get broken. So I have it on display in my house here. So this panel right here, you have your magneto switches, your ignition switches for engines left and right. So each engine would have had 2 magnetos. You have redundancy with the engine ignition. So you'd have your left magneto, your right magneto, and both. So in case you lost one, you could swap it. And this will shut off your ignition for both engines 1 and 2. And then this is your magneto switches for engine 2. As we come down here, we've got the same control for engines 3 and 4, magnetos right, left, and off. And you've got your master switch, which would turn both the ignitions off for those engines. As we come up here, you've got your fuel shutoff valves. This would have been an arm here, a guard that protects the switches from going into the down position, which would essentially kill the fuel and kill your engine operation. So you've got engine 1, 2, 3, and 4, fuel shutoff valve. As we go down here, we've got our fuel boost pumps. When you're going to start the engines on the B-17, you want to give it a little fuel to get the ignition or the fuel flowing to help with better starting. So you turn on your fuel boost pumps. From what I understand, after the engines are running, you would shut these off. As we come up here, we've got some recognition lights, red, amber, steady state. Let's back out here, more exterior lighting. As we come down to the bottom, we have our cowl flap controls. So the cowl flaps for engine 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what these are they are flaps on the back of the engine cowling, which would allow more airflow through the engine. So if it's hotter and you're operating on the ground, you're going to want your cowl flaps open. Once you get up to altitude and the air gets super cold, you can adjust these and close your cowl flaps to help warm the engines. You don't want them to get too cold, get carb icing, stuff like that. As we move over to the right, you got your landing gear control, pretty self-explanatory. Up and gear down, and you have your landing lights. This is a flap indication, never to exceed 147 miles an hour. Flaps down, and of course you've got your flap switch up here, up and down. So that is your center instrument panel control box. You'll see in the pictures how it mounts on there. But yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you watching. All right, well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of my project here. In my next video, I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, I never had the opportunity to actually make video of this project, but I do have a lot of pictures. So I think what I'm gonna do for the next video is I'll do kind of a video slideshow, and I'll narrate, do like a voiceover describing exactly how I built this instrument panel. Well, thanks for watching, and come back to the next one.